The Lunaverse, Season 2, Episode 2, started and hosted by Emeral Bookwise. My gosh, I've got a lot to say when it comes to these intros. Chapter 1, Wake-Up Call. His coat was a golden tan, over a body so toned, it almost looked like he was an expertly crafted statue, cast in bronze. His long and elegantly groomed mane, with matching tail, was a rich auburn that blew magnificently in the wind. His eyes were like two endlessly deep pools of ocean blue. It was with those eyes he gazed upon the mare. The aspen-coated Pegasus shivered as he traced a hoof along the outline of 3 droplets on her cutie mark. She moaned in delight as he nuzzled his snout through her turquoise mane, inhaling deeply of his scent. When he pulled away, she opened her mouth to protest, but all such thoughts disappeared from her mind as she felt a gentle prodding at her lips. The mare opened wide and took in the full length of his offering, swirled her tongue about it, savoring the taste before biting. As she chewed, the rich flavor of the honey-glazed bread became even more pronounced. The stallion then offered her a glass of cherry wine. She eagerly took down the remains of bread. The everypony sat at a table amidst a field of flowers, all in full bloom. The only illumination, a singular candle at the center, stars above. He gazed at her and back at him, speaking but a single word. More. The stallion spoke back to her in a luxurious accent. Be careful, my sweet. You do not want to fill up on appetizers before the main course. And after that, there is dessert. She smiled clearly. Well, maybe we could skip right to the dessert, then. Oh, you are naughty girl. The stallion's words were cut short as the mare lunged across the table, locked her lips with his. The two tumbled down the sloping field of flowers and came to rest beside of a sparkling river. As their kiss broke, the mare looked down upon her stallion and he back up at her. He leaned up softly, but not for another kiss. Instead, he nibbled her ear once and whispered, There is something I must tell. Something I felt in the pit of my heart from the moment I first saw you. Yes, she moaned. She felt his moist, warm breath against her. The stallion took a deep breath, then blared like a trumpet. Raindrops shot up in bright bed as the trumpeting continued its relentless roar, fast ripping away the lingering ecstasy of her dream. Hurling a blanket to the floor, along with a novel depicting a rather familiar-looking stallion in a suggestive pose, the Pegasus stomped over to her window. She nearly unhinged the shutter as he threw it open, ready to murder, or at least maim, whatever fool had spoiled her dream. Just before it got to the good part, no less. She drew in a deep breath and began shouting down to the interloper. Her rays caught her throat at the sight in the street below. Cheerilee? But what? Do you have any idea what time it is? The plum-colored earthpony lowered the bugle from her lips and smiled. Why, of course I do. It's 1/2 sunrise, which means you're late. Late? Late for what? Raindrops. Cheerilee scolded, with exasperated disappointment. Don't tell me you, of all ponies, forgot. Then, beaming with exuberance, why, it's the first day of our new Knights of the Realm training regimen, of course. Now, up and down, girl. We've got a busy day all day. My little pony, my little pony. Ah, my little pony. Friendship never meant that much to me. My little pony. But you're all here, now I can see. Stormy weather, lost to share. A musical bond with love and care. Teaching laughter, it's an easy feat. Magic makes it all complete. You have my little ponies. How did I ever make so many true friends? You're watching the Lunaverse, only on the Hub. Presented by Hasbro. Also presented by Sunny D. At the edge of Ponyville, all 5 mares stood in a line. Carrot Top absently brushed some yellow hoof against a strained tangle in her orange mane, quietly lamenting having to cut short her normal morning grooming session. She wasn't a vain earthpony by any stretch of the imagination, but she still took great pride in mane care as her singular luxury that she never skimped out on, no matter how much she had to squeeze her budget. True, it was only just one tangle, hardly even noticeable, but she knew its existence would nag at the back of her mind all day long. Next to her, Lyra Heartstrings was bounding energetically at her mint-colored hooves, her golden eyes darting back and forth as she eagerly asked her friends on either side if they were excited as she was, Her horn even let off an occasional spark to punctuate her enthusiasm. Dizzy Dew stretched out her gray feather wings wide, flexing the tips to work out any early morning kinks. One of her yellow eyes tracked her friend with each bounce, while the other seemed to contemplate an arid blade of grass.
Aren't you hyper this morning?
Huh? Unicorn stopped mounts, so her host still danced around with anxiety.
Is that supposed to be a crack about me being lazy?
Dizzy stepped uncomfortably into her friend's gaze.
Not trying to judge. It's just that whenever I dropped off the morning meal to Confessatorium, Bonbon always says you're upstairs sleeping. That's not about being lazy!
Lyra responded a bit more harshly than intended.
There's just not much call for a musician in the morning, which means I make my best money playing in the afternoon and evenings, so it's just that I might as well sleep in.
Dizzy supposed that made sense, even as she preferred her own occasional off-duty morning by catching up chores. Of course, having her daughter to look after probably made a difference there, too.
Alright, but you still seem a bit perkier than usual.
Well, I might have had an extra 2 or 3 cups of coffee with breakfast just to make sure I was at my best, and there was probably a little extra cream and sugar involved, too.
At that moment, Carrot Top joined in. I've seen you drink your coffee. It's usually more than a little cream and sugar. You even stir it with a candy cane.
Hey, I do live in a candy shop, so it's just more convenient than having to clean up with an extra spoon layer. Just like the unicorn had. Besides, who was I talking? I was talking about my coffee when I mentioned the cream and sugar. Next in line was Trixie, the self-proclaimed great and powerful. I was too tired to feel her typical unease at such innuendos. Her azure coat was bereft of cinches her garb, and she yawned and swayed slightly on her hose. Unicorn muttered some mild curse that her mentor couldn't have, just this once, neglected her eternal duties, and left the sun beneath the horizon, only for an extra hour or two. Lastly stood Raindrops, still in something of a foul mood, lamenting the loss of the dream Cheerilee had stolen from her. Yes, they all come to a mutual agreement to begin this training regimen, including the part about starting at the crack of dawn, but she never expected the usually laid-back schoolteacher would enforce punctuality with such so great zeal. As Trixie stifled another yawn while rubbing her weary eyes, Raindrops whispered to her, "So, I guess Cheerilee dragged you out of bed too?"
Oui, moi? How could you say such a thing? Just because I'm not a morning pony doesn't mean I can't drag my own flank out of bed. Thank you very much.
Trixie did grin slightly.
Besides, yesterday I saw Cheerilee by a bugle of all things. As much as I despise mornings, it was worth the extra effort just to see the shocked look on her face when I stepped out my door 5 minutes early.
A moment passed in silence before Trixie realized,
wait, you said 2. Don't you tell me she...
Raindrops blessed her shame, before Trixie could press the matter further.
Alright, girls, no chit-chat.
All 5 ponies broke from their desperate conservation to give Cheerilee their full attention as she paced slowly in front of them. Philomena, the salamanders, Tamberlon. She conveniently failed to mention the time all the alcohol in town had been cursed. But that event had been embarrassing enough that the 6, along with the rest of the town, preferred not to speak of. Now then, I know none of us ever expected to bear the burden of an entire nation on our shoulders. Now we've all been trying our best, but we all agreed it hasn't been enough. It is high past time we started treating our duties like the knights the Princess Luna made us. We've got 3 strikes against us, but we aren't out of this game yet. We won't let the tyrant son catch us with our pants down again. Are you with me? Of course, the raucous cheers came from the assembled mares. Even Trixie felt invigorated as she cast aside her remains of sleep. The 6 ponies who bore with them the primal forces of harmony stood together of a single-minded purpose. Well, almost all of them. The cheers were cut short as Raindrops interceded.
None of us wear pants.
It was a silly thing to say, but some part of Raindrops' mind still begrudged the rude awakening she had been given a slip. She flustered slightly in embarrassment as the others all eyed her, but still pressed. Well, we don't. What kind of pony wears pants anyway? Maybe it was the early morning air, or still a grist of a combination of caffeine buzz and sugar rush, but Lyra responded, I think Ace does.
Miss Pearl, too.
Did she add? She really coughed lightly to get every pony to focus again. It's just a turn of phrase. Now then, where did it come from, though? Interrupted Carrot Top to every pony's surprise. I mean, it's just never made any sense to me. Did some noble come up with it? Trixie scratched a hoof under her chin.
I don't think so. Not many ponies in Canterlot wear them either. Not even Fancy Pants. And it's even his namesake.
Cheerilee cussed Sterling one more time. Enough of that, my little ponies, said the school teacher in the same tone she used to quiet the class of noisy foals. With that distraction put aside, the 6 mares began the day's routine with a series of calisthenic stretches. Raindrops, it wasn't all that different from her usual exercise habits, albeit not at such an early hour. So despite her grogginess, she found the activities mostly effortless, even if flexibility wasn't her strong suit. Carrot Top also had no real difficulties, but that was hardly surprising given that out of all the 6, she had been far the most physically taxing job. The farmer's demurely reserved composer belied an impressive physique built for single-hoofedly plowing fields day in and day out.
What did surprise most of these civil ponies, though, was just how well Trixie kept pace. It wasn't exactly common knowledge, but for the past few months, Trixie had been exercising on raindrops, if then consistently. While she mostly started as a means of occasional distraction and stress relief, the efforts had gotten results nevertheless. Despite her initial excitement and vigor, Lyra had quickly lagged behind, at least with the more rigorous exercises. Unicorn still managed to show every pony else up when it came to stretching, most of the others having forgotten the displays of extreme flexibility she had shown off when they were all introducing themselves on that fateful day in the Everfree Forest so many days ago. Dizzy was having some troubles as well. When no stranger to a hard day's work, she was more used to the long-term efforts of lugging post-written bags along her mail routes, so exerting herself so much in a quick burst was quite exhausting. Cheerilee had mostly balanced performance. Not the strongest or most flexible, but blending both in equal measure and seamlessly shifting from one exercise to the next. Yet, even as she cheerfully complimented the efforts of the others, while encouraging them to push a little bit harder, she could also be heard occasionally muttering about how out of shape she let herself get, since settling down as a school teacher. With the warm-ups out of the way, Cheerilee had led the group to the morning's main event, so now the 6 mares looked at the extensive obstacle course that had been set up for them. 5 of those mares exchanged rarely nervous glances. So, how did you really set this all up by yourself? Oh, it wasn't that hard, Cheerilee replied matter-of-factly and oblivious to any concern. Besides, I got Rainbow Dash to help me. She even says he based off of some of the obstacle courses the Wonderfuls used in their training, though modified for non-Pegasite cars. Maybe we should tone it down a little. We aren't exactly Wonderful class athletes. She contemplated. I suppose we could cut out the jump through the flaming hoops. A wire mesh was strung across several little stinks in the ground, forcing the mares to crawl their way under it. Carrot Top came to an abrupt stop about 3/4 of the way through. Normally her natural affinity for plants helped her past bushes and brambles with minimal effort, and that clearly didn't apply to the metal wire that the errant tangle in her mane from earlier snag. As she fidgeted, she got more of her mane caught, along with her chain as well. Minutes later, the farm pony stood with puffed cheeks, glaring at the pair of shears that had been used to free her. The damage was overall minimal. Her friends having been careful to cut away, was more so the principle in the matter. Still, despite her best efforts, the offending object refused to melt into a pile of slag under the ire of Carrot Top's vengeful gaze. Finally, the mare harumphed, and as she turned away, gave an absent-minded kick with a hind leg. She yelled in pain and began hopping on 3 legs. The shears having got one last laugh at her expense by managing to sit at right angle to jab the fluster mane into the inner lining of her hoof. A grid of wagon wheels laid on their sides. One by one, each mare took turns trotting through, until an azure-coated unicorn stumbled, tripped, and went sprawling to the ground. Trixie muttered with a near-leaning curse and glared at the offending objects, while 4 other mares giggled slightly before helping her up. A near-vertical stack of logs barred further progress. 2 by 2, the mares took each one of the hanging ropes hanging from the top of their mouth and climbing their way up. Heaving herself to the top, Lyra let out a victory cry and proceeded to dance a little jig. One misplaced hoof, though, she lost her precarious balance. Dizzy reached out to catch her, but only lost her own balance as well, and the 2 ended up rolling down on the other side, ending up in a heap on top of Raindrops and Carrot Top below. Cheerilee sighed and shook her head, only for Trixie to nudge her little hoof and give her a reassuring grin. The school teacher returned the smile, but her eyes were still lingering on the other 4 as they disentangled themselves. A long, narrow plank stretched across the mud pit, and weighted sandbags swung back and forth across the path. Lyra deftly dodged and ducked under the pendulums, putting her flexibility, balance, and sense of rhythm to excellent use. Carrot Top followed after with significantly less grace, having to pause at several points to avoid falling over or rushing into an oncoming bag. Dizzy crossed with minimal effort, skewed her eyes and left her with poor depth perception, but it also helped her track multiple objects at once. Raindrops barreled through with reckless abandon, actually taking one or two grazing hits completely unfazed, till finally a bag caught her full on. Even that the sturdy Pegasus only stumbled, but as she struggled to regain her balance, her forward momentum carried her onto the path of another bag swinging in the opposite direction. Splat! As raindrops cleared the mud from her eyes, she gazed up at the plank, rolling with restrained fury. The fact that Trixie blew her a raspberry as he passed certainly didn't help. Even without stopping to think, raindrops scooped up a sizable bud of mud, one hoof and tossed it into the unicorn's eyes. Trixie let out a startled cry before misplacing a host step and stumbling to join raindrops in the pit. Hey, no fair! That's cheating! You deserved it. And you deserve this! Said Trixie as she took a ball of mud her own hoof onto the raindrops. The Pegasus effortlessly dodged the attack. You really shouldn't give opponent so much warning. But rather than seeming frustrated, Trixie only grinned. Raindrops only had enough chance to glance upward before even a larger ball of mud, levitated by the unicorn magic, fell on top of her. Trixie chortled in triumph, but it was short-lived before a barbaric roar pierced the heavens. As the two mares took a turn dodging volleys while returning their own, three other mares watched from above. "So did we stop them?" asked the worried Carrot Top. Lara shrugged. "Nah, I see we let them get it out of their system." Don't worry, grinned. "Besides, why spoil a good show?" Shortly thereafter, though, a seemingly emerald ball of mud curved sideways in midair, guided by Trixie's magic. Struck Lyra on the side of the head. "I heard that." Single hoof, Lyra slowly wiped the mud from her cheek. Clapping her hose together, she spread twin streaks of mud like rakes of war paint. "Oh, it is on!" Oh, battle cries, she charged in the mud and curries. It wasn't long before not so accidental balls coached with Carrot Top and Ditzy into the front as well. Soon all five were laughing as they rolled about in the muck. That is, until they all hastily covered their ears, shrill whistle cut the air. Cheerilee lowered a hoof from her mouth, glared down at the five. All averted their gaze as though they were a group of naughty foals caught in the act. "Care to explain yourself?" "Ah, such cheers," chuckled Lyra, as she scratched the hoof behind her mane. "I guess maybe we all got a little carried away." "I'll discuss the issue of your getting carried away, like back at the wall, later. Right now, though, I was suspiciously talking to raindrops. You deliberately tricked Trixie up." "Ooh, busted," said Trixie in a mocking growl. The school teacher stood to her glare. "Don't you think you're out to hoof either, Missy? I caught that raspberry you blew. Raindrops may have been in the wrong, but you provoked her. What kind of teamwork is that?" Well, that is—" "Oh, come on!" blustered Raindrops. "Not like either of us would pull stunts like that if any of this was real. Besides, if this were real, I'd never have fallen in the first place." She spread her wings wide. "Or did you forget I got these?" "Oh, is that so? And did you forget that time Sakura used the potion to paralyze your wings? Or what if that sandbag had been a salamander coiled around you before taking a dive in that lava pit?" Raindrops glowered. Trixie regained her composure. "Look, we get it. We both screwed up. Like Raindrops said, though, it's only practice. So nothing wrong with a little harmless fun and games." "Fun and games?" Cheerilee deadpanned. "Oh, sure. It's all fun and games until Splat!" Silence hung in dead air. Four mares sliced sunstruck inside Cheerilee. Now her face plastered in mud. Slowly, she turned her eyes to the culprit. Carrot Top wilted under the combined gaze. I guess that was bad timing." "Link! Now! All of you!" barreled Cheerilee. "I want you cleaned up and ready to give the course a second run in 5. "Why bother?" Raindrops moaned. "We're just gonna get dirty again anyway." "Don't give me any lip, soldier! Now move it! Move it! Move it!" Isn't this fun, guys? Back to the sanity that we all know and love with Lunaverse, after the insanity that we just dealt with.